Before we watch Les Greenberg demonstrate emotion-focused therapy, I have a few questions that I'd like to ask him about this approach. Les, welcome. Les, what is emotion-focused therapy?
Well, firstly, it's an experiential psychotherapy. So that means we really focus on experiencing rather than on sort of conceptual processing. So it's really not talking about your feelings, but really viscerally feeling your feelings. So emotion-focused therapy, clearly by its name, focuses on emotion. And it's saying focusing on cognition or behavior just isn't enough, although those things might be important. And then the hallmark of the therapy is that we have what we call markers, which our client problem states that they enter in the session. And then we have particular interventions that are appropriate at particular markers. So if somebody's in conflict, we use a two-chair dialogue. If somebody is on the surface of their feelings, we use focusing and so on. So really...
So you do some assessment, and based upon this assessment, not a formal assessment, but a dialogue through dialogue?
Right, it's a process assessment or process diagnosis. What state are you in? Because intervention depends on the state you're in. And so we can sort of conceptualize emotion-focused therapy as islands of work on these markers or problems embedded in a kind of ocean of empathic attunement. So we see the relationship and empathy is very important, and the therapist's presence. So you really are in the moment. The therapist is in the moment. They're not thinking or theorizing, writing things down. They're really trying to be really attuned.
Now, you're known as the originator of this approach, and was there a theoretical basis for this approach or in your work that led you to this?
Well, really, this is an integration of person-centered, what we call client-centered therapy, originally Gestalt therapy, existential therapy, the humanistic therapies, and I really integrated those. And then later in the couples therapy, we also integrated systemic interactional approaches. So it really is an integration of those therapeutic approaches, but then it's integrated with emotion theory and sort of affective neuroscience. So it's an integration of those things. And also, I was a student of a neo-Piagetian, Juan Pasqualeone, and he had a theory of mind, dialectical constructivism, and we utilized that theory to pull it all together.
I see. Now, most therapists deal with feelings. What makes this EFT approach unique?
Well, most therapies don't actually deal with the visceral experience of emotion and how to work with emotion as such. So we have a set of principles of how to work with emotion: awareness, regulation, expression, reflection on, transformation, corrective emotional experience. So we're really talking about how to directly promote emotional awareness and promote emotion transformation.
Okay, and so it's it's really then how you work with feelings. That
Yes, it's how we work with feelings, and
the
that
level, the depth.
Yeah, right, and that it's empirically based. That we've, in a way, we've kind of transformed the art into a science in part. Because working with emotion is so fluid and dynamic, and we've managed to isolate, measure in a reliable way, and so it's empirically based in many ways, and that's what makes it unique.
So this, when you talked earlier about these markers and then the particular strategy that you use, this has been tested.
Right, this has been tested, but also we have these different identifications of primary emotion, secondary emotion, adaptive, maladaptive, productive emotional processing, unproductive, emotional arousal. And so we've developed measures of all of these and shown how they relate to outcome.
Now, when you work with a client, is there like a process you follow? Are there steps? Are there stages?
Well, there's sort of circularly organized steps, not a linear sequence. But if we sequence it linearly, the first phase is a bonding and awareness phase in which the narrative unfolds. The second phase is really the key phase of evoking emotion. Then there's transforming emotion. And finally, there's this type of narrative consolidation phase. That's a way of thinking of it as a linear phase.
Yeah. And earlier you talked about some strategies and techniques. Can you talk some more about what they are? You mentioned the chair technique. You mentioned...
Right, so, I mean, the chair dialogues are very important because they help to get to core emotion schemes. This is another key idea of what makes the therapy unique. So the interventions are being used to get to the core emotion schemes. So we might use a two-chair dialogue between two parts of the self in different ways, an empty chair dialogue with significant others, focusing on an unclear felt sense. Then we have an intervention called systematic evocative unfolding, and that's for when people are puzzling about a problematic reaction. It's actually, we've delineated about 12 different markers and interventions.
Okay. Well, in a moment, you're going to be working with an actual client, and what's going to be important when this client comes in? What are you going to be looking for? Help our viewers get kind of a feeling for
Right.
what's going to stand out.
Well, really, I'm going to be trying to follow the core painful experience. We talk about following the pain compass, because the pain leads you to the core emotion, to the core need. So I'm going to be following the narrative, but I'm going to be following vocal and facial expression that shows me what people are feeling. Because I think you really have to feel things to heal them. And we've got to get to what the core painful emotional experience is.
So you have to feel things to heal them. Can you say a little more about that?
Well, another phrase I use is you have to arrive at a place before you can leave it. So I think to change fear, you have to feel fear. To change shame,
you have to get to know it.
You have to feel it. It's like we have to accept ourselves before we can transform ourselves. We've got to get to it experientially, because then it's open to corrective emotional experience or to a new experience. If we're just talking about it, it doesn't sink into the deeper core of our being. But it's like, so to make a feeling open to transformation, we have to feel it now in the room. Then we have to feel a new feeling. So we talk about the best way to change emotion is with another emotion.
Now, when the client is talking, what are you focusing on? I mean, you said you're watching a lot of things, but you know, people are going to come in, they're going to be telling about the presenting problem, they're going to be talking about the narrative, the story of their life, they're going to be talking about thoughts and feelings and actions and...
Yeah, so really I'm focusing on two main things. What are you experiencing and what's your core pain, and what are the markers that are coming up?
Okay.
So markers always come up, and I'm following the painful the emotions and the painful emotions. And if they're positive emotions, that's good. I'll follow that too. But I do think you have to get to the pain for people who are troubled. And people in general avoid their pain. They avoid painful feelings. So I'm trying to provide a safe environment to help them accept, undo the avoidance, to tolerate the emotion. But just tolerating emotion isn't enough. You also need to transform. And that's where the idea of accessing strengths, internal resources that are emotionally based will help change the negative feelings by getting to these more adaptive feelings.
Can you talk a little more about the markers?
Well, markers are things like when a person has two parts that are in conflict. We call that a split, particularly a self-critical split. Another marker is when you have unresolved bad feelings that have lasted for a long time towards a significant other. And then there are problematic reactions when I puzzle about a reaction that I'm having.
And so there's a handful, or how many markers are there that would...
Well, we've delineated around 12 now, and we really see the possibility of this being an ever-expanding set of markers.
So that's not finite.
No, no. I mean, recently we're working on self-soothing and self-compassion as a marker for emotional suffering. And we've developed a whole set of new emotion narrative markers, things like empty story, broken story. And so we're looking at the way people organize the experience as they narrate them, and then how best to intervene when it's a broken story and so on.
Well, in the session our viewers are going to see in a moment, what do you want to avoid doing? What do you want to make sure that you don't do?
Right. I don't want to lead too much. We talk about our therapy as being a sort of dialectic between following and leading. When you're working with emotion, it's like with people self-organizing processes. And I want them to self-organize, but however, I don't believe it's all up to my client. I believe we're co-creating together, but I don't want to lead the person too much away from their own experience. But I am willing to lead in a zone of development. Like I can be a half a step ahead of a person, but not 1.5 steps ahead. That's too far, and I don't want to over-influence.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're dancing really with the client.
Absolutely. I think that's the best metaphor, and really in sync. And I don't want to shame people. I'm very sensitive to validation and not shaming and not raising anxiety, because that just raises the defenses, the protections, and helps people to stay away from their feeling.
You think of a client that would be really good, client for EFT. What would that client look like?
I think first and foremost is somebody who has a capacity to form an alliance. Right? And then they would need to be able to collaborate or agree on the goal and the tasks of focusing on emotion. So they've got to be somehow open to the idea that emotion is important in their lives. They don't have to be highly skilled or deeply experiencing when they begin. And we have research data on this, that people who start off at low experiencing, provided they can form an alliance, they eventually increase their depth of experience. But there's got to be some ability to see that emotions are important. And this is where working with men is sometimes difficult, because they tend to stay away from their emotions more than women.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Do you really work differently with men and women with this model?
Yeah. I think it just takes a longer time with men, and there's the same issue with different cultures. In the Asian cultures, for example, and it takes a longer time to build an alliance, to build the kind of safety that's necessary. But afterwards, we would work in the same way.
Maybe as a way to kind of sum up our conversation before we see you work, what would the ingredients be then for good therapy?
Well, we've really done the most research of any therapy on the process of change. So we've shown that, firstly, arousal of emotion at moderate levels, and it predicts outcome. So we've got to have some emotion aroused.
Some, but not too much.
Not too much. In fact, we've shown that in the best or most highly aroused session, about 25% of the time that people are talking about emotions, if they're aroused about 25% of the time, this predicts best outcome. If they're not aroused at all, they don't do well. And if they're aroused too much, it's not good either. So we've got to have arousal.
So that would be one ingredient.
Right. We've got to have reflection, the ability to turn around and make sense of emotion or mentalize it, to somehow make coherent meaning and help
Be
it
able to-
develop the narrative in a sense. So we're not talking about getting emotion out. We're talking about arousing it and making sense of it as the kind of core processes. Then we've recently developed a concept of productive emotional arousal. And this is where people are mindfully in contact or aware of their emotion and able to symbolize it, reflect on it, are congruent, and so on. So it's the way people process their emotion that's important. So they've got to process their emotion in a productive manner. That's one of the key ingredients. They've also got to get to their core maladaptive emotions, their core shame, their core fear. And then they have to be able to access their needs. Accessing needs is very central in promoting change. This is like the healthy force within people, is their healthy adaptive needs. So these are the kinds of things that help the therapy to work.
So moderate emotional arousal, being able to process this, being able to get the feedback from it and make meaning out of it.
Right, right.
And then you have down being able to know what your core needs are.
Right, right. Well, getting to your core painful emotion,
Painful emotion.
and
the
then
needs, okay.
getting to your core needs that the emotion is telling you hasn't been met. Then once you get to the needs, you tend to, the person who usually becomes an agent, trying to get that need met. This is a way of mobilizing agency in people.
Well, now it's time to watch you work, and hopefully we'll see many of those ingredients in this next session.
Hopefully,
Thank you, Les.
right. Thank you. So, Chi-Chi, we've just been chatting for a moment, but I'm wondering how you would like to use this time. We've got 2 sessions.
Right.
And what you'd like to focus on, or how it can be most help.
I think the main thing that I'm concerned with right now is it's a problem that I have with following through on goals that I set for myself, things that I want to do. These are realistic, they're attainable, they're not grandiose schemes, but I seem to constantly sabotage myself. I seem to constantly not be able to follow through.
I see. So somehow getting in your way or
Yeah.
not following through.
Yeah. I just don't seem to have any self-discipline or self-direction at all.
So there's a kind of sense of wanting to do things, but
Yeah.
not just being able to get them done or
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah, so I feel kind of aimless. I feel kind of, and you know, I always have excuses, you know, for why these things aren't happening.
Yeah.
But I've run out of excuses,
This is-
and I'm not getting anywhere with the things that I want to do with my life.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And what kinds of things?
Well, for instance, I've always wanted to write. I write for a living professionally, but I've always wanted to do fiction, and I'll make a start at it, and but I never follow through. It just sits there.
Yeah.
I work, and then I just drop. I have wanted to just basic things like at one point I was taking very seriously being healthy and working out and doing all of that, and I loved it and it was great and I was doing really well at it, and then boom, just for no reason I can see, I stopped and gained back all the weight I lost all of my the physical ability
Yeah,
that I had
yeah,
worked really
yeah,
hard for a
yeah.
long time to get to, gone. Things like that.
Yeah. And what do you feel as you say that? I mean, it sounded like it was touching.
I don't know why I do this to myself. I get so angry and disappointed with myself
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for not, and it seems to affect everything,
Thing.
you know. So yeah, I'm already getting all upset.
But you know, right, I see
but-
that. But this is really a place to where you have permission to be upset
right.
because to deal with that. Because I think somehow the upset is saying this is really important to me.
Yeah.
And you're saying I'm angry at myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm frustrated. It really gets.
I tend to express my anger by crying too, which also annoys me because when I get upset with someone or with a situation, I start crying when what I really feel is anger, and I don't get that either. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but anyway.
No. But that sounds really important. So you're saying that often the tears come out,
Mm-hmm.
but really underneath your feeling is anger.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And here, though, it's a complicated kind of anger, I think you're saying, because it's a frustration of being angry at yourself or being angry that you can't somehow achieve your goals.
Right.
Or what I was struck by also was the sort of like suddenly I dropped them. Well, that was the health related.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm puzzled because I was doing it and then I just don't do it, right? But with the writing, it's more, I want to do it, but I'm just really don't get going on doing it.
Yeah,
or-
yeah. Or I get going, but I don't follow through. I get halfway through,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
yeah.
stop.
Right.
Yeah, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
You know.
But then your tears, I mean, your tears are very important, you know. And as you know, I've seen your intake interview, right? And, you know, I understood that there are I mean, often these blocks in our lives come also from a whole history of kind of who we are and what we feel about ourselves and so on. I mean, how do you understand the blocking or the not being able to get things done? I mean, you say you're angry at yourself, right? And you get frustrated, but that's kind of a reaction. I mean, what's your understanding, or how do you try to understand it?
I don't really try to understand it. I try to fix it. I try to
I see.
I try to tell myself, you know, enough talking about all these things you're going to do. Enough talking about it. You know, you need to start doing it. I try to do it small steps, you know, small. And nothing seems to work, you know.
And as the tears come up, can we stay with them, right?
Okay.
I mean, what actually happens inside when you feel all this tearfulness? If you were to go to your body,
I feel like it's never going to change, and I'm always going to be this person that does nothing but talk about all these great things.
it's a kind of sense of hopelessness then,
Yes.
I think you're
Yes.
saying, right? I just feel like nothing will ever change.
Right.
And then you sort of move away from that, you know, either by getting angry at yourself
Yeah.
or and as you say, talk about it, but it doesn't help. But
Yeah.
can we try to stay with the hopeless feeling, your hopeless feeling, right? Where do you feel it in your body if you can? Like, what's it feel like even now as you...
It's like almost like a tightness, like through my chest, and I would say all the way down to my stomach, almost like a sick feeling.
Right, so it's all here.
Yeah, it's all
right,
here.
Right. So if you could try and pay attention to that almost, and it may even help to close your eyes and try and describe that first.
It's like a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
It's like you're on like when you're on the top of a hill or a roller coaster and you're going down that sinking feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Except it's not exhilarating like a roller coaster
So,
is.
but yeah,
But that just, like I'm drowning, like I'm sinking.
yeah. Stay with that if you can. And can you maybe even talk from that? I'm drowning. I'm sinking. I mean, this is the difficult feeling.
Yeah, it's, yeah, I think that's the closest thing I can describe it to, that I'm drowning, that I can see a light, but I can't reach it, and I know that I will never reach it.
But it's like I can see a light, but somehow I feel like I can never reach it.
Right.
Yeah.
That it's up there, but it's,
It's out of reach.
yeah, I can't get to it.
Yeah. And if you just stay with that feeling, right? It's like I can never get to it. Just let words come from that feeling, or let it go wherever it goes, and just follow the feeling that I can't quite get it.
Yeah, it's and then and then I just sink and I drown, and I never was able to
Get
to climb up there and swim up to the light.
Yeah, yeah. And that's this deep sense of loss almost, and hopelessness.
Yeah, it's like my life is just so, like I'm gonna die without doing anything in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not gonna do, what I was
Sort of destined to
destined
do.
to do.
Yeah,
you know.
but it is that feeling, right, of it's all, my life's going to be over and I'll
Yeah.
never have fulfilled what I could have or wanted
Right.
to. Or,
And yeah, and it's in so many different aspects of my life.
yeah.
Things that I feel passionately about, as far as certain things in the world that I want to change,
Yeah.
that I'd like to be more active in, that I'd like to devote my time to, and I just feel like
It slips through my fingers.
yeah, I
or
can't make it. It's like I don't know.
I just can't make it happen. I
Yeah,
can't.
and it's me. It's me. I'm the one who's not moving, who's not taking any steps, and I don't know how to get myself.
Really moving.
Yeah.
And how long, when do you first remember having this feeling, or what? So there's this sinking, can't get going feeling, and I mean, has that always been there since early on in your life, or?
I don't know. I guess
I mean, maybe it's not easy to.
it's not easy to pinpoint
Yeah.
when. I've felt it more strongly in the last few years.
Yeah.
I guess because I'm older.
And things are kind of moving.
Yeah, I'm realizing that a lot of time has gone by and there isn't much time left. So I think I've felt it more keenly in the last few years.
Yeah.
But that's,
But it's hard to sort of pinpoint
yeah,
specifically.
right,
Right. So somehow it's just this feeling of I can't get myself going. I hold myself accountable, sort of, or
Right.
responsible.
Right. And I can't blame it on anything external. It's all me,
Yeah. But I guess it's sort of part of me wants to do something, but just somehow I never quite get there.
No.
And if we can talk a little bit more about the I don't get there. How do you think you block yourself or stop yourself, or what happens?
I'm not sure. It's always, well, I'll get to it later. I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
I have something else that's come up. There's something else that's occupying my time. It's usually bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's a convenient excuse at the time.
Right. But so it's part of me just keeps seeming to avoid
Yeah.
getting it done,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
moving away.
Right.
Because somehow, if I did it, or there's a kind of fear of doing it, maybe. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a puzzle in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That I always get in my own way. And I don't even seem to realize that I'm doing it till I look back and say, oh, yeah, that's what happened. So,
You know, one way to try to work on this might be to actually have a dialogue between two parts of yourself where
Okay.
we look, because it's like they're two parts. I want to do it, and either I don't want to do it or I stop myself
Right.
somehow, right?
right.
And are you willing to try this? I mean, it's a bit unusual, but I'll help you along with it.
I talk to myself all the time, so maybe that.
right.
Usually not out loud.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, we all do that. Right.
So I could try it.
So what we'll do is in one chair you'll be the part of you that really wants to do things.
Okay.
In the other chair, the other part, which we'll try and sort of clarify.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to just need to move chairs because of the
Okay.
cameras, right? But
Okay.
so, which part are you more in touch with right now? As a part that wants to do things, or the part that says, oh, let's just drop it?
Probably the part that says, let's drop it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's come over
Okay.
here and be that part.
Okay.
Right. So describe yourself, if you can, to me at first. I'm the part that...
That says, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's not going to make any difference. You're just going to screw it up again.
Right. So already you're saying to her, you're going to screw it up again. Right. So let's... And that brings up some of the feelings, right? So see if you can see the... Stay
Okay.
there. See if you can see the other part of you. Here's Chi-Chi, who
Okay.
wants to write, right? Who wants to write a novel or wants to. Right? Do this to her.
Okay.
You're saying to her, what's the use? You're going to screw it up again.
Right.
Or whatever you do to yourself. See if you can actually see yourself there. And you, let's call you the blocker or the interrupter, right?
Okay.
Stop her from doing it.
Okay. You're just going to screw it up again. You keep trying this. You keep thinking this time it's going to be different. It's not going to be different. You're going to screw it up again. You're not that good anyway. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of you talking about it. Just give it up. Just give it up. Let it go.
Let it go, because you're not going to get it done. And you're not that good anyway,
Right.
is what I heard you say.
Yeah.
Tell her how she's not that good anyway, or why it won't succeed. Because there's sort of two parts. One is you'll not get it done, but the other is you're not good enough. So what do you say to her?
You're just going to be exposed for the fake that you are.
Yeah.
You're not. You're going to give it a half-assed effort like you always do. Give it up.
So you'll never, if you try, you'll fail.
You'll fail.
Right. So don't even
Bother.
Don't even bother. Don't get to it. Yeah. Does that
That's, yeah, that's,
what you do?
yeah.
Change, if you will.
Okay.
What's it like when you get that? I mean, already the tears have come, but what's it like when you get that message?
You're right.
Yeah, yeah. But what's it feel like inside? Yeah, breathe. And really go to you, because what does it actually do to you?
It makes me feel small,
Yeah,
small and helpless.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is the painful feeling.
Right.
Let's try and stay with that, right? So tell her I feel small.
That makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
It's
And then,
it's not true. It's not true, and I don't know why you're saying it. But we both know that that's not true. And maybe you're right to a certain extent, but I don't know. I can't, I don't have anything to say to it. I don't.
and what do you feel as you sit here?
You're right. I mean,
It sort of feels hopeless, or
Yeah.
you feel
yeah,
like giving up.
yeah.
Tell her what it does to you. It makes me feel,
Well, now I feel like I have no reason to make any effort.
I feel like, what's the use?
What's the use?
Yeah.
What's the use?
And then I just kind of retreat
Yeah.
almost, or kind of,
I don't want to have this conversation anymore, so we'll just drop it. I don't want to hear it anymore, so we'll drop it. And I just go away.
talk about
I
the
would
going away. What does going away mean? I just,
In my mind, I just walk away. I just go away from it, distract myself
yeah,
from it.
yeah, yeah. So it's almost like I escape, or what's
Right.
I distract myself from it.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I was just having the image of kind of almost shrinking away
Yeah,
and disappearing, so that the
yeah.
kind of
So that I don't have to hear it anymore and I don't have to deal with it anymore. You know,
because it hurts so
Right.
bad, or it's so undermining. Where does that voice come from? You'll never get it done. You won't amount to, or you won't be able to.
I don't know. It's coming from me.
Yeah,
It's coming
yeah,
from myself.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. But you know, often these are voices we've internalized
Right.
from our parents, or you know. And I mean, I don't know. You know, it's a complicated voice.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's go back over here, because
Okay.
this is, as you say, wherever it comes from, you do it to yourself.
Right.
So do it some more, because this is what you do.
Um,
So make her walk away, disappear.
this is ridiculous. This is just a joke. You're just a joke.
You're a joke. Tell her why she's a joke.
You're lazy. You have no self-discipline. You can't stay committed to anything. You,
Make her not stay committed, because this is what I think you do it, like you were saying. Make her not be able to stay. What do you say? I mean, I think this is where before, yeah, what were you going to say?
You can't stick to anything. You don't have what it takes for whatever reason. You just don't. You've just never been able to do that. And
And before
you're
you,
not going to this time either.
yeah, that's sort of like a second level almost. Before you were saying, if you expose yourself, you'll be shown to be a fake, or somehow it's like you won't really, you don't have it. I mean, is that right?
Yeah.
Or what is it?
Yeah, you don't, well,
Or make her afraid that she doesn't have it, I think is.
you have squandered all of your talents, all of your potential. You've just let it all go. So what's the point? You're obviously not doing anything good with it. You may as well just go crawl off into a hole. Just crawl off.
Yeah, and what do you feel when you say that? And you, it's like,
Just dismiss it.
yeah, yeah.
Just
Yeah, and you also pull a face a little bit, right? It's like,
give it up.
give
Go.
it up. You're,
Just give it up.
right, but there's some sort of disgust almost.
Yeah,
Or,
I do feel disgusted with myself.
oh,
I think all those things are true.
tell her, I'm disgusted with
I'm
you.
disgusted with you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a double.
I have no pity. I have no compassion. This is entirely up to you. If you want to change it, but you're not.
Right, so
It's not my fault that you screw it up.
you, but you.
I'm just here to tell you how it is. To be the voice of reality.
Yeah, the harsh voice of reality,
Right.
right? Because it's like dismissive
Right.
and disgusted
Right.
and angry. I
Right.
mean, that's what you'd said, right?
Right.
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 Right. So this is what you do inside,
Mm-hmm.
right? I write you off. I'm finished.
I'm done with you.
I'm done with you.
Right.
But really, underneath that, it's like you don't have what it takes, or something. You know, there are like two
Yeah.
levels to this voice.
Right.
One is I'm kicking you for not getting it done,
Right.
but the deeper kind of voice seems to be you can't do it
Right.
because you're not good enough. Or what do you say to yourself to sort of make her afraid? You don't have the talent? Or,
It's not so much that.
yeah,
I recognize that I do.
yes.
It's just talent isn't enough. You don't have any determination. You don't have any
Sort of discipline,
discipline.
that's right.
Right.
Make her not have determination or discipline. You see, that's the, how do you do that?
It's just not in your nature, for whatever reason.
It's not in your nature to,
To follow through with things, to stick to things, to
so I want you to be a part that makes her not follow through. How do you do it?
what is the use? It's not. Do you even know that if you do this, your life is going to be any better? It may not be. It may be that this is just the way things are supposed to be for you, and you shouldn't try to make things better. Just deal with what you have and with who you are, and try to make the best of that. And don't. There's no point. There's no point. It's not going to. It's not going to make a difference. Nobody else will care.
Say this again, right? Both of those. It's not.
It's not going to make a difference.
Whatever you do won't make a difference.
Won't make a difference.
And nobody will care.
And no one will care.
And where does that come from in your life?
I don't know. I don't know.
But something happens inside when I ask you that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Does this come from your mother, or?
In a strange way, my mother was strange about how she motivated me.
Yeah,
It was always very mixed.
Because mixed sort of catches.
Yeah.
I have talent, but what's the use? It's not going to get.
Right.
It won't get you what you really need.
Right.
Wow. What was the mixed that she did?
She would praise me very highly for things that I was good at.
Yes.
But she also felt that the things I was good at were not necessarily things that were going to be of value in life.
Yeah.
And then, and then she would say, well, that, for instance, I used to do acting. I always wanted to act since from when I was little.
Yes.
I was very much praised for my talent in that, but I was also constantly told that that was not
Gonna get
get me anywhere, and that.
So be that voice, and that's your mother, is
Right.
Who was it? So can you be your mother and?
It's great that you have this talent. It's, that's great, but it's not something you can have a career in. It's not something you should pursue. It's not something you should take seriously. It's not something that's, it's not a viable thing to think about.
Yes.
You need to focus on just getting a job. And, so there would be that side of it. I went ahead and did it anyway.
Change. Let's stay with.
Okay.
What does it make you feel when you get that? Right? You see, inside, I mean, there's a voice there that's saying somehow it's not worth it. You won't.
Right.
It won't make a difference.
Right.
But then
Right.
this is your mother saying, it's not a real job, right? It won't get you a real job.
Right. Which, I mean, is true. But,
Yeah.
I mean,
But what's the feeling that it creates in you?
well, anger was my initial
Yeah,
reaction,
yeah,
Yeah.
Can you tell her?
Well, I realized that it's a tough area to go into, but I think that I should give it a try, at least try it. And if I don't make it, then I don't. But I think that I need to at least try it.
And I'm angry.
Right. That you resist and fight with me on this topic all the time.
Right.
And that I feel like if I do this, I have to fight with you about it. And that you're going to be, you're going to constantly denigrate my choices and my decisions. And that if I don't make it, then you're going to say, I told you so.
Yeah, wow.
But then, on the other hand, when I did have some success with performing, then
you supported.
then it's great. Oh, my daughter, the actress, and well, if you're an actress, why aren't you in the movies like so and so? Why aren't you doing such and such? Why don't you,
Yeah.
what?
Change, because this is her voice. Right. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great, but it's not really that great because you're not in a movie.
Right,
And you're not,
right.
I don't see your name in lights, and I don't see you on Broadway. So it's really not that great.
Right.
Look at so-and-so. She's an actress too.
So you're never going to be good enough.
Right.
Something like that.
Obviously, you're not good enough.
Yeah. Say this again.
Obviously, you're not good enough. So maybe at this point, you should just give it up.
Right. Change. What happens when you get that?
I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't understand anymore.
So it really
all these mixed-
confuses. I get
Yeah.
confused, and
Right.
somehow
Right.
I imagine it kind of really deflates
Yes.
your sense
Yes.
of
Yes.
kind of excitement
Yes.
or possibility, right?
Yes. It kind of swings from, oh, you're great, that's great, to, well, but why aren't you doing this and that? You know, to, well, you're not that great. It's this swinging of these extremes that,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
And it makes you feel what towards her?
furious.
Yeah. Can you tell her? I'm furious.
It makes me so angry that you do this.
Yes. Tell her again.
It makes me so angry that you do this that sometimes I don't even want to talk to you
Yeah.
because we're going to get into this conversation and
Right. And you can feel this anger now.
yes,
Right.
yes,
Right, and
Yes.
you're not crying. You're not
Yeah.
crying. You're being furious, right? So I am
yeah.
furious.
And when she starts with that now, when
Yeah.
we're on the phone, I just end the conversation.
Yeah. Tell her, I'm not taking this from you.
We're not having this conversation.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation a million times. We're not having it right now. We either switch the conversation or I get off the phone. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Or I walk out the room. It's your choice.
But tell her what you need or needed from her.
I needed her to show me how she became such a strong person, that I always have admired that about her. And
Tell her.
I have always admired that about you. That is the one aspect of your personality that I probably the most wanted to emulate, but you didn't show me how to. All you showed me was
You're not getting it. You're not doing it.
you're not doing it, you're not getting it, but you didn't show me how you did it or how she thought she was, I guess. I guess she thought she was. I think from what she tells me, her mother was that way with her.
Yeah. So tell her.
Your mother was that way with you. Your reaction, however, was to say, I'm going to prove you wrong. And you did. You did everything that you set out to do.
To
You
prove her
fought
mother wrong,
very
yeah.
tough odds to do it. And you did prove her wrong. And I wish that I could do the same thing, but I've never been able to. You frustrate me at every turn because no matter what I do, it's either not good enough or it's good but not worth anything.
And
So I don't know.
And that left me feeling so sort of unsure of myself
Yeah.
or so unable to
Right.
sort of really.
Right. Right.
And I needed what?
Pardon me.
I needed what from you?
I needed more guidance,
Yeah.
not just this swinging between criticism and praise. I
Yes.
needed guidance, not, when my mother criticizes you, she doesn't, let's just say it's not constructive. It's always very,
When my mother criticized me.
when my mother criticizes me,
Yeah. It's really destructive.
yes, it is.
Tell her about how it destroyed you.
You can never just say, look, maybe you should try this, or maybe you didn't do this the best way possible, or, maybe you need to think about this. It was always, oh, you're so stupid. Oh, idiot. How could you think that? It's always just the most
Yeah.
vicious,
Vicious.
just
Terrible.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that left you feeling so diminished,
Yeah.
right? But so, like, what was it like? What did it feel like when you got that? I mean, there's this face of contempt and ridicule. It must have been devastating.
It was. It was. Yeah.
What actually happened? What was it? What did you feel?
I would feel just rage, fury. I would scream at her, yell, just to get out all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I imagine underneath the rage there was such hurt,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right, that I just felt so
And fear.
fear. Yeah.
Terrible fear. Terrible fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you taste the fear at all now? I mean, as you recall this,
As I recall it, yes. Yes.
tell her what fear you felt, if you will.
Uh,
I just felt.
I felt like you hated me. That I couldn't believe that you would talk to me that way, that you would say those things to me, as if I was somebody that you hated,
Yeah.
not your child, but somebody that you just hated.
Hated. It's like I felt so rejected, or
Yeah.
so unloved, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not quite fear, though, but did you feel fear too? I felt fear of your violence.
Yes. Yes. I did feel
Yeah.
that.
But it sounds like the deepest thing was like not your child, like you hated
Right.
me.
Right.
So I felt hated.
Yeah. I did. I felt. Yeah.
And I needed what? I needed to feel.
Loved, accepted. You know, I'm sorry that I didn't turn out to be exactly the way you wanted me to be, but that's,
I'm me.
yeah.
And I needed you to really love and accept me. Can you say that?
I needed you to not reject me because I wasn't exactly what you wanted, and I didn't do everything exactly the way you wanted it to be, and that you didn't have complete control of me, and that you would be okay with that,
I needed you to be okay with me.
with me. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And what do you feel as you say that?
I think that she tried.
Yeah.
I think she really tried.
Let me make a suggestion. Change. Come over here
Okay.
and be her.
Okay.
Tell her, as her, I tried.
I tried, but you were so difficult. You were so out of control. You were so you were always going to do what you were going to do. You never listened to me. You never took my advice. You never, if you had done what I said and listened to me, you wouldn't have all these problems. You'd be much better off in all areas.
In her inner world, it sounds like it was hard to control you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think control was really important to her.
Tell her it was hard for me.
It was hard for me. do like to have things the way I like them. I do like to be in control. And you were, of my 3 children, the one that was wild and out of control and not amenable to that. And you were always getting in trouble. And I had to stop that. I had to keep you from just going wild.
So in some way, from her inner world, I was trying to protect you, or, I mean, were you trying to harm her, or were you trying
No. I never wanted to harm you. I wanted
to
to.
tell her that? Yeah.
I never wanted to harm you. I wanted to keep you from making mistakes in your life that could ruin your life. And I saw you going in these directions that were destructive. And I wanted to stop that. And the only way I knew how to do that was by trying to almost, like I had to scream at you to get you to listen to me. And
It's almost like I didn't hate you,
no.
but I couldn't really manage my own life,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't manage.
Yeah. My mother couldn't manage her own anger. And that, yeah.
Can you tell her this?
I couldn't handle my own emotions. Having children was stressful for me, and I couldn't handle things that were somehow escaping my,
My control,
Oh, yes.
or my sort of holding it all together. Yeah.
and that was the only thing I knew how to do.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left, right. But let's come back over
Okay.
here and see how you, as you, take that now.
I understand that, and I don't have any resentment about that. I understand that. I'm an adult now. I don't think that we need to dwell on that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to move on from that. And part of my trying to move on from that means that my interaction with you has to be something that I control, because
Yeah.
I don't want all that stuff to come bubbling back up. So I don't blame her. I don't resent her. I think she did the best she could.
Tell
I
her
think
that.
you did the best you could. I don't feel like I have to bring this up to you or punish you for it or anything like that. But I do feel that I have to work with how that left me to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
So it's kind of like a scar that I carry.
right,
I'm not actively blaming of you for
Right.
it now,
Right.
right?
right.
But I guess, part of this and what we're working on is like, you did need her acceptance back then, right? And part of therapy is kind of like trying to rework that and go back. And almost as strange as it may seem, sometimes one can change one's past by reliving it in the present. And by going back there as the child who needed her and actually being able to tell her what you needed and get what you needed in imagination or here, it kind of helps heal the wound.
I guess so, yeah.
That's what therapy is about in
Right.
a way, is trying to rework the past and help to heal that. Because somewhere inside of you, there's still that little girl, I guess, who needs that acceptance
Right.
and needs the kind of "you're okay," right? In a way, maybe we can continue to work on that of how you can support yourself rather than
Right.
get in your way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you take a moment and just come back to yourself? Yeah. And, you know, I've sort of said some things about what could be, but where are you now? How are you putting this together for now?
I think it's interesting. I like the technique. It's. I think that's I think it's very helpful.
Helpful too.
Yeah.
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 So if you go back inside of you just now, just try and name where you are or be aware of what you're feeling.
Somewhat more hopeful.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
You can actually sense that or
Yeah. It's all of this is stuff that I've never said out loud. So I think that part of it is helpful.
yeah.
Um,
Good.
so,
Yeah, and I think it is.
yeah. It feels different when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's less frightening because it's not all just jumbling around in there.
Inside,
it's out.
yeah.
It's like
right.
it's
Yeah, and when it's out in the world, we can kind of
Yeah.
manage it also.
Right,
you
right.
know,
It's like
sort
it's-
of,
coming out of me there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, and it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, emotional work, right?
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm pleased that it's helped you to feel a little more hopeful.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll pick up
Okay.
again when we meet again.
All right. All right.
Okay,
All right,
good,
sounds
good.
good.